Blog Talk Radio.
Yo, what's up, world? It's badass stunning like I usually do, and you better turn it up, bust some speakers out, cause we off the motherfucking cuff. You dig how we do it? Dog Pound Gangsters 2000 and beyond. Black.
Yo, check this out. This is your girl, Cola Vogue, and I'm chilling with my boys right here on Off the Cuff Radio. Because we off the cuff right now. You dig?
Bet. What's up? It's your boy Lil Yap from UNLV, bragging up from the river, cooling with my homies and my family at Off the Cuff Radio. Y'all be sure to tune in on Fridays and get the latest scoop and find out what's happening. You heard me?
Tiffany Lavon.
And it's Queen Crazy, your girl's favorite bartender.
And we're from
Sex on the Rocks podcast.
Alright, you're now tuning in to Off the Cuff Radio.
Yeah, because they keep representing that real hip-hop. Well, much love.
Alright.
Y'all, this is Miss Irresistible, giving a shout out to the livest show on Friday nights Off the Cuff Radio. And I'm live from the 704. Make sure y'all tune in for the blazing hot music.
Hey y'all, this is Stacey Lachey, giving a shout out to King Eric and Off the Cuff Radio.
What's shaking, y'all? This is the Grand, one half of Lost Cause and 1/3 of that Drive Time thing. Sending my love to the homies over at Off the Cuff Radio. Tune in every Friday night for some real deal hip-hop conversation. These dudes are the connoisseurs of this thing. You already know what it is. BX Stand Up, HUD City, we're shaking. Peace.
Yo, this is Dope Fresh to Dine, and y'all tuned in to the most raw, uncut show on radio, the Guillotine Team, Off the Cuff, and yo, Eric, Sandman, off of these clowns' heads.
Y'all tucked in? 1, 2, poets coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, poet crucifix. 7, 8, don't stay up late. 1, 2, poets coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, poet crucifix. 7, 8, don't stay up late. Fuck you, and fuck you too. I don't even know you, but you know what you can do. Walk around the city with the semi and the hoodie on. Buck one for Trayvon, this is that napalm. You got that Henny, then you know what to do with it. You got that loud, then you know what to do with it. What up, New York? I'm spitting like a fool with it. Where's that support? You gotta help the goon get it. Oh, I forgot, y'all niggas riding dick too. Loving all them fake niggas. Matter of fact, fuck you. I do me, I'm forever QB. I'm forever screwball, so it's fuck you all. What I gotta do to hear a nigga drop a bomb on it? Ghetto superhero saving the streets, the brown hornet. Black poet, yo, I ripped your heart out. Nothing was given to me, I took the hard route. What? 1, 2, poets coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, poet crucifix. 7, 8, don't stay up late. 1, 2, poets coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, poet crucifix. 7, 8, don't stay up late. How many different ways can I say I don't give a fuck? Get high, live it up, scheming while I'm twisting up. I'm focusing on the state of this shit. I can't believe y'all okay with this shit. But I'ma slice and dice the mic like Kruger. Chop right through ya, ace out losers. Hey yo, Stu, this shit's a banger. Hardcore beats and rhymes equals danger. I don't care if they act the Grammys with they tight ass shirt on and spandex panties. Just don't call that shit rap, and it's not hip-hop. I don't know what's that. I don't know what your silly ass might have thought, but I'm holding down a fort, drinking Henny by the court. Too many battles I fought, too many lessons I taught. It's Black Poet, motherfucker. What? Queensbridge for life. Motherfucker, you know, Stu Banger.
Just thought I'd start this show off with some heat, y'all, for my man, Black Poet. It's titled Black Kruger. I had to start y'all off with that heater right there. That's a sample of what to come from Screwball Radio coming real soon. Me and Black Poet gonna be hosting that show. So nevertheless, welcome to Off the Cuff Radio. I am your host, King Eric the Great, alongside my co-host T-Match with the facts.
Hey, it's OTC on a Sunday, the place to be, man. And we starting the week off right, man.
Yes, sir. And, before our guests of the night chime in, first of all, I want to thank everybody that took time to subscribe, took time to check out our shows, share our shows, take time to support us, take time to check the music and what we're producing. We're just keeping it heavy working, man.
Definitely. And one thing about it in terms of what we do, it's not always easy. It's a lot of work. It's a DIY operation, and we're so grateful to all you, our subscribers, listeners, who always have supported us since day one. And I don't think there's a better example of independent perseverance, hustle, hard work, and the love of the culture like our most esteemed guest that we have on tonight. This young lady right here is one of the most sweetest, kindest, most determined, hard-working, sincere, and unbelievably, incredibly creative individuals that we have ever had the pleasure to meet. And we're so humbled and privileged to have her on our show tonight. Go ahead, King. Bring her in.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to wait for her to call in, but in the meantime, the call number is 516-531-9596 if y'all want to chime in. And before we go live on here, I want to send a special prayer to my friend Candy. She's going through a lot of health problems right now. She's been real supportive of the Off the Cuff. And we're just going to dedicate this show to her and hoping that everything is well.
Definitely. Prayers up, Candy Sierra. We really wishing you the best. We're with you all the way in spirit and in love, and we're really, really just praying for the best outcome. So just stay strong and, push through whatever's going on right now.
Definitely. So now we're going on to this topic here. T-Max, I'm going to let you do the intro for our guest of the night, and we're going to get this thing rocking and roll for this hour.
Definitely. One thing about journalism and hip-hop is that it's a very tireless endeavor, and you really have to have a passion and appreciation for the craft and the culture in terms of really pushing forward, But when you really are dedicated to your work, the rewards that you reap are many in terms of the people you meet, the events you get to go to, the interviews, all types of the, amenities, of the profession. And our guest tonight is one of the most sincerest, one of the most sweetest, kindest, most hardworking, independent, outstandingly creative, and incredible individuals that we have ever had the pleasure to know. And we are humble, we are so appreciative, and we are so honored to have her on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the publisher of UBO Mag and so many other journalistic endeavors that she's going to tell us all about in depth, Miss AARIS Schroeder. What's up, girl?
Hey. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on with you, lady?
Set the intro up for you.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to set that intro up for you. So how you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Yeah, man. So it's great to have you on. So we've known you for a minute, and we're finally, able to have you on the show. So we're so happy, we're so humbled, and we're really, really excited about introducing you to all of our listeners at large, and really being able for you to tell us, and them all about your journey and this thing we call hip hop. In terms of all these things you've done in it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you, where you came from and how you got started.
Well, I come from Sacramento, California, and I actually had moved up to the mountains in 1990 when I was a kid, and I was already writing books. I was already a pretty avid reader and all that stuff. So by the time I got up into the mountains, I started to fall in love with journalism as early as about 12, 13 years old. So I was a features editor in my junior high, my high school, and my college.
Mhm. Man. So what was it like back in the day in terms of those, because back in the day when you're dealing with journalism, we're all from that generation where print was really like a major thing in terms of, rap pages, XXL, Source Magazine, Right On, Word Up, all of that. I mean, what was it like in terms of your foray, really getting into it and really getting into the scene of really like, shout out to the 916. I mean, what was it like out there in terms of really just kind of really just learning what it was like out there, really get into because people got to understand journalism is just more than writing. It's about telling a story and really getting in depth, disseminating the experience to those at large.
Well, because we moved up to the mountains, we were living in Georgetown, California. That's in El Dorado County. It's in between Auburn and Placerville for those of you that are familiar with the area out there. And when I moved out there, I'm in the middle of nowhere. And we didn't have cable or nothing like that when we moved out there, but we lived on top of a mountain, and we could clearly see the Sacramento Valley. Some days we would even be able to see the ocean line. That's like how high up we were in the mountains. So I actually had the privilege of being able to grow up in the mountains listening to not only Sacramento hip-hop radio, but also the Bay Area hip-hop radio, and like all those really cool little TV shows, like the video shows that KMEL put out, and the box and all that kind of stuff. CMC for KMEL is what they had back then. So that's what I grew up listening to, and I got into hip-hop probably around the time that I started high school, and I just fell in love with B.I.G.'s, with Notorious B.I.G.'s song Juicy. It just caught me, and I was just like, oh my God, I know that song, I know that beat, because I grew up listening to a lot of like Motown and oldies and even like classic rock and stuff like that, and Christian music. So hearing like those familiar beats put to poetry, which I also like to write, was like just falling in love with it. You know what I mean?
And coming from Northern California.
But then,
go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I was going to say with the magazines, because you were talking about like different kinds of magazines. I was lucky because, my mom and my dad, they taught me and my siblings how to read at earlier ages. And so by the time, oh man, like my whole life, like my first magazine was Ranger Rick. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
As I got into junior high and high school, I started to get more into entertainment and female magazines, and I started buying like Rolling Stone and Vibe and different ones like that. And that's when I kind of came up with the idea of either writing for one or creating my own entertainment magazine.
Wow. And
how did you get
and
getting around the scene, how did you like get out there when it comes to your network?
Yeah. So, of course, coming out of the mountains, I didn't have, any kind of network. So I was in school, so I was going to college for journalism. And shortly after I started, maybe like a couple years in, I became editor of my college newspaper. So shout out to American River College, to the Current. That's the newspaper I was editing for. And that's when I started the magazine, and I didn't really know that many people, but I was working for the state for the Environmental Protection Agency at the time. And one of my coworkers was doing music videos for like Rick Rock and the Federation and like just different people.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh my God. So yeah, it was just kind of like my little way in there. And, you know, him and I just came up with this online magazine idea, and I didn't even know what to do. He's just like, do what you do, but do it online. And I'm like, okay. So, you know, and this is way back in like 2001. So there weren't really many online publications back then. There were subscription-based newspapers. So a lot of your like state or city printed newspapers would have online websites. So I literally kind of based that off what I was doing, and also my experience, obviously, in laying out and editing and writing and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, once I got out there, I just started to like find other groups. I created my own way of doing e-marketing. I'd go to other websites like clothing lines or other artist websites, and they'd have like affiliates on their website. So I was able to like go into there, find out who they were, email them, and that was how I was able to get story leads and grow my network in the beginning.
Man. So, I mean, definitely. And, you know, go ahead, King. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to talk to her about the history of the UBO magazine, and I want to talk about how you guys maintained that online magazine over the years. Like, how did that start, and who was, like, the masterminds with that?
So I'm the mastermind behind it, and like I said, a friend of mine that I worked with, his name's Dave Drever. He's doing big things down in Hollywood now, so he's, you know, doing, like, videography and stuff like that down there and putting together, like, different kinds of small shows and sitcoms and stuff. So he kind of came up with the idea that I already wanted to do, but basing it online. Because I was telling him, man, it's going to cost me thousands and thousands of dollars to print something like what I want to do. And he's like, put it online, it's free. I'm like, what? Okay. So that's how it got up. And the first thing I did was I went to excite.com, which is an older search engine, and I created a little group in there. And then I moved the group over to Yahoo. And that's when I ran into my first webmaster. And his name's Mike Steiner. And I nicknamed him Webmaster Mike. And he basically built me a PHP-based website. It had an entire database that I was able to go in and load stories, and I was like kind of ahead of the game at that point. So I was getting, I want to say like up to 10,000 people every month going on the website up until social media began around 2003-ish.
Yeah.
So once that all happened, that's
yeah, and you know, AARIS, with a situation like that, because you know, like King, King was a journalist, and of course still is a tremendous one today. You know, when he really puts that pen down, you know, to write, and so it's something to really see that evolution of where you all were ahead of the game back then. Now, you know, when you mentioned the Federation, I'm automatically thinking back to the days, you know, like with Brother Lynch Hung, Rick Rock, you know, and all those guys, you know, and that's like, you know, growing up in Northern California, you were really getting into the game of really, like, getting into it. Did you really, really know, like, how rich that culture was musically in terms of, like, all the legends? Like, did you really have an idea, like, how major you all were in terms of the contributions you all made to the music and culture?
Yeah, I definitely did. Even before I was networked into the local community of artists, I definitely knew I had a list of artists I wanted to interview. Do you want to hear it?
Sure, go ahead.
I had three artists. I had like three different artists I wanted to interview in high school. So I wanted to interview. I wanted to interview E40. I wanted to interview Sugar Free, and I wanted to interview Twista. Yes, and Twista.
Chicago,
those are the three people I wanted to interview.
Pomona, Chicago.
I mean, if you guys can make it happen, hey.
Man, and to hear you, so, reminiscing, and your enthusiasm is just so infectious and bubbly in terms of just, what was it like when you really got a chance to tell us about that first interview that you got with your first major artist, or just your first artist in general?
Well, I'll just say, I can't remember exactly my first interview with the first major artist, but I know my first interview in Sacramento with a Sacramento MC. I interviewed a guy by the name of Crazy Ballhead. And Crazy Ballhead, he's like a conscious hip-hop artist. He has a live funk band. And he was networked in with a lot of the earlier conscious hip-hop artists from the 90s and stuff. So I was able to get in touch with Mr. P. Chill, The Cause. There's so many old school groups, The Cuffs, so many different groups in Sacramento that are quite legendary. So yeah, and I was able also to hook in with Amina Labs. So that's where a lot of the people that come up to Sac from the Bay go to for their studio time is with J Synth and J Intel.
And man, I mean, look, King, she was on it. What was that whole music scene like back in the day in terms of just the different genres between rock, hip hop, everything? What was that like? Just really kind of seeing that, just kind of watching, because, and we talk about this on the show all the time. King and myself, our co-host, Phil Sandman, Lady Chinchilla, and so many of our other friends. We talk about this on and off the air about how people see the interviews once they start getting notoriety, but people a lot of times don't really see the story that goes before it actually becomes a story. What is it like behind the scenes watching these people work and really getting that bass out and really watching these scenes develop on the underground?
Yeah, well, it became really, really important to me coming out of high school. My favorite things to do would be to go to the record stores and dig through records and CDs and stuff like that. So that's what I would do. And it was my goal to basically educate the public about independent and underground music, because I knew there was music out there that was positive and conscious and good for people to listen to, rather than a lot of the music out there that belittles women or talks bad about certain people. So yeah, looking at the scene back then, there was a lot of people that I was connecting in with, and being able to attend these smaller style hip hop shows gave me a lot of ideas, for the future of what UBO magazine was going to be, and it enlightened me, really. It enlightened me. I learned what guerrilla marketing was through that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different things that I learned from the artists. And I, at first I would try to kind of maintain my distance and my integrity, if you will, and not, become friends or join any kind of local cliques or things like that. But as I got older and 5-8 years into the business that I am in, I did decide to get closer to people, because what I noticed was that a lot of people, especially involved with hip hop communities, a lot of people are standoffish towards the media. They don't want to tell you things because they think you're trying to put their information out there in the world and stuff like that. But the thing about UBO Mag is that it's a positive, conscious publication. It's not something where we are, man, if you got bad music, I will help you find somebody to help you get better music, and I will help you build an EPK. And, that's where we came up with all the services and things like that we do as well. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yeah, you did. You did real well.
So, thanks.
Yeah, you did real well. Now, do you care to also discuss when you was working with the Hip Hop Congress at the Sacramento chapter as a historian?
Yeah, so I got introduced to the Sacramento chapter through a friend of mine named Vanessa Amaro, and she was the chapter head of that chapter specifically. So the first thing, how I got introduced in after her, was one of the other guys in the group was trying to throw a 3-day hip-hop festival. and he needed like some help. He's like, I need publicity, I need marketing, can you help me please? And I'm like, yes, of course I will. So I came in there and I helped him organize a 3-day event for youth and young adults. And basically we had an open mic area, we had an area for live art, we had an area for kids to do artwork and stuff. We had a main stage, and then we had a bunch of booths and vendors, and then we had some food inside you could buy. Then there was like a little taco shack across the street, and we had about, I think, 1,000 people come in through the 3 days. I could be wrong, but I want to say that's about what we had, and it was really successful. We had people traveling from like LA to come all the way up to perform, and all the money was raised, like 100% raised to go for the nonprofit, so that way they could continue to have workshops for youth to teach education through hip hop, and young adults to kind of keep kids out of trouble and find their passion.
And really that's what it's all about in terms of, not only, having that level of journalism, but also having that community outreach as well. Because I don't think a lot of people really understand the nuance that goes into doing what you all were doing. Because one thing, AARIS, that you said that I think is really important is that there is nothing wrong with cultivating relationships and even friendships in a business, but there is also an element of having to keep it professional as well. And we have seen at times, I remember Reginald C. Dennis, who used to write for the Source magazine. This was back in 1994, and he wrote a piece about essentially how a lot of times with artists, everything is good until you say something within your journalistic, like you said, credibility, because this is not personal, this is just business, and you're speaking on something they don't like, then it's like, well, fuck your publication. And, and also, too, just the situations about how, like you said, clicking up, because that's where a lot of times, one thing I think artists have to understand about this is that this is a business that once you get into, it is going to be public because your music is public. People are going to hear it. There are going to be critics. Not all of your critics are going to like what you put out. And, like you said, but one thing that really stood out to me of your impeccable benevolency and generosity is that, rather than slam an artist whose project may have not been so good, you knew there was a disparity, a discrepancy, and a deficiency, and you would put them in the direction of those who could help them. Which is, one thing about what we do, what you do, what so many others do, whether musically or journalism, I think people have to understand is this is a very intimate art. This is a very intimate craft. This is something that means a lot to us. So we want to feel like people are listening, that people are appreciative of it. And nobody wants to be told they suck at what they do, especially when they put a whole lot into it. But a lot of times people have to understand that there are going to be criticisms, and through those criticisms, that's how you polish everything to make it better. And, what you said about the guerrilla marketing was unbelievable, because we're going to get to that later on in the show. We got a little bit of time left, so we're going to talk about how later on how marketing has changed. But when you talk about the marketing, I don't think a lot of artists today really understand back in the day what you really had to go through. I mean, how was that networking in terms of really, like, meeting up with people, like, securing venues and, like, really doing all of this in terms of, like, really just, getting down in the dirt and, like, really digging up, the ways to get it done? What was that like?
Yeah. Well, there's all different kinds of marketing, like you said, that people can do. And when it comes to being out in the public, a lot of that has to do with little simple things. Like I always would tell my clients, make sure you have a business card. This is like when everyone had a phone, but like you still needed the card. Now a lot of times you could just add people on social media, but having that card, even like let's say you went out to the bar and you drank too much and got 5 cards, you're not going to remember none of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you wake up in the morning and you got those cards there, you're more likely to be like, oh, okay, I got to call these people. Or same thing the other way around. If you gave your card out to somebody, they're more likely to call you than if they just add you on social media. And that's what a lot of people do nowadays. And I still tell people to get business cards because it's super important to do that, other than that, like when it comes down to like other kinds of marketing in the streets, there's guerrilla marketing I mentioned earlier. That's pretty much like putting flyers up, talking to the record stores,
posters,
making sure you put flyers up everywhere, talking to business owners before you put flyers up, going to local events, community events, mixers, things like that, handing out your card, handing out flyers, talking to people, telling them what you do. Like all of that kind of stuff really helps. You know, it helps to build your network and it helps to build your repertoire of what you are and what you're coming with, you know?
Right.
You know what we also like to do on this show, too, is like when we have guests, we also like to highlight their accomplishments. Like sometimes you got to show off your trophies. And what I'm observed about you is you hosted an open mic called Life Sentence. And one open mic in 2008. Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, so that's actually the first event I ever threw. So I got together with some friends of mine from Third Eye Collective. It's a bunch of cats from the Bay Area, the East Bay, like from Fairfield down to San Francisco. And we pretty much put together, I wanted to do an open mic where people could do poetry, they could play instruments. I wanted children to come, parents to come. I wanted it to be really free, like for everyone to feel equal and everything. And so the venue we picked was a place called Butch and Nellie's in Sacramento, down on 19th Street. And it doesn't exist anymore. Like the building's there, but the owners don't own it anymore. But it was a great place. It was owned by this lesbian couple, and they allowed us to go in there and have this open mic. And it lasted about 9 months, I want to say. And we basically had it where people would come in, you know, pay $5, and then if you wanted to be on the slam, part of that money goes towards that. And then whoever won the slam, we'd give you like $50. And so we'd let whoever wanted to sign up for the slam go in, and we just organized our show around that. And even back then, we were like live feeding the entire open mic online, so people can be from home and tune in.
Man. And I mean, you know, and one thing about the Bay Area, you know, just Northern California in general, and I think that's something, you know, that a lot of areas, because, you know, especially with your tenacity and your hustle, you know, you really, really added on to something that was already like established. You know, for a lot of places and areas where there's a lot of, you know, aspiring hip hop movement, some places it just never really can gain steam. What does it take for a local scene to really, really like get its legs under it, from crawling to like running that marathon to being, you know, like an influencer in the music? Because I mean, the Bay Area, you know, shout out to the Godfathers, you know, of course Too Short, you know, our good friend
Too
Richie
Short,
Rich,
E40,
you know,
yeah,
the late great Mac Dre, of course, E40, Sugar T, and the Click, you know, shout out to all of them. I mean, these are like considered like the big three of the Bay Area, big 3 and 4 of the Bay Area that like really, in Northern California, that really would like open up it for everybody else. You know,
oh, even like Mr. Fab too. Like shout out to Mr. Fab as well. Like, he's a big influence in the Bay Area as well.
Yeah, Mr. Fab. I mean, you have guys come later on like Filthy Rich, Jay Stalin, Stevie, you know, Stevie Joe, Lil Blood. You know, Mozzie out in, of course, your home, 916 Sacramento. Shout out to Mozzie and the whole crew.
Debo.
You know, I mean, yeah, man. You know, it's like, you know, Dre Dog, aka Andre Nicotina. You know, of course. Man, I mean, we can't forget EAC.
Rich history.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's so many, and those are the ones that are like more well known. There's like also a whole bunch of like backpacker, conscious, underground street rappers out there all over the place, you know. And a lot of them their jobs are in education, or they got, you know, 9 to 5s and stuff like that. And it's really cool to see how they're still able to like, you know, craft their art in the music world.
Yeah, what does it take to really build a movement out there in terms of how when you were because me and King, we always talk about this. How important is it for the local artists to be able to connect with the community out there in terms of really having that support to really be able to push it forward?
Yeah, so, like they say, your network is your net worth. So pretty much you got to build that up, and that's through marketing. So you can take, like, your close friends, I always tell artists, especially if they don't have a name for themselves, hit the open mics. Go there first. Network there. Drop your card off. Talk to people. That's, the best place to go because all those people know other people, And nowadays you can add them all on social media. You can see who they're talking to. You can, learn who their network is and all that, And, that's the fastest way to grow, Do a few shows for free when you're just starting just so you can kind of, get a sense of yourself on the mic. And the same goes for, visual artists, too. A lot of visual artists don't know how to get into galleries. And it's the same thing. Go to art shows, hand out postcards with your art on it, things like that, All that kind of stuff helps you to build your repertoire, your network, and to bring people to you.
Right.
Now, when you started doing interviews and stuff, people always think, and this is why I'm glad that we have you on, because people think that interviewing artists is just a simple thing. People don't understand you got to dictate their mood. You got to dictate the energy. It's more than just sitting down and asking questions.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yes, absolutely. It happens all the time. I've had, several different artists I've interviewed where, I wrote my questions down, I did my research, all that, like what you're supposed to do. And then I go in and they're like, you should be asking me this, or let's talk about that. They're trying to dictate the interview, and you have to kind of feel them out. And it's almost like a customer service / journalism kind of thing where you're like, okay, I see where you're going with this, and you might be able to flow into that other direction. And nowadays, if you're interviewing on the phone, you can type out stuff if it goes off base. You could take a recorder with you. There's different apps that you could use on your phone that can, that you could save what you're saying on the phone and everything. So it really, really helps. Nowadays there's a lot of things. Back in the day, you had to have a little tape recorder with you. Or for me, I would have my tape recorder and my clipboard. I have all different kinds of clipboards in Sacramento still that have all the stickers from everybody on them. You know what I mean? Just going to shows, I'd just be slapping the slappers on the back of the clipboard because I'd be walking around with it. It's free advertising.
Right, because to lighten up the interview for a little bit. I remember one time when I did an interview and I had all the questions lined up. I had probably about 20, 25 questions lined up, so I was going to let it breeze through the hour. So I asked the first question, and dude answers 11 of my questions within the first 5 minutes. I said, damn.
You're I'm almost done? That's how it's
exactly how it happened with the, if y'all can check it out, this is what happened with the LV interview that we did. And I was like, damn, man. So I'm I got to figure out what I'm going to ask this dude now.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. It happens.
Yeah, and it's real because, like King said, when you're looking at a situation like that, interviewing is an art, and you already really had a experience at this way before it would really become on a internet level for what we see now with shows. Of course, rest in peace, Combat Jack. Of course, we see the Breakfast Club. We see Drink Champs. We see Everyday Struggle. We're seeing, so we're seeing all of that now. And this is a very layered issue because a lot of times I remember Nas speaking one time, and I believe Double XL, he did an interview, and he said, I don't usually like giving interviews because I feel like it's an invasion of privacy.
That's exactly what I said earlier, right, about the indie artists. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing about it is I think more than anything, it is of the utmost imperative because, where you came up in a time where the credibility was essential and imperative, we're seeing a situation now where people will make a sensationalism off of somebody just for a click they can like. A certain, prominent video, interviewer who we simply named DDD. Yeah, Insider. Yeah, and he basically likes to get out there with the most ratchet elements in his interviews that like get people caught up, and it's like, dude, that's not how this is done.
It's supposed to be about peace, love, and having fun. It's not supposed to be about deteriorating people, you know?
Right. And yeah, and I think more than that, and like you said, man, it's about you want to be respectful of people, because we say this on the show all the time. Beneath the glamour, beneath the glitz, when you take away the sheen of celebrity and notoriety, these are human beings, no matter who they are, and nobody wants to feel like they're being exploited for somebody's gain. And you know, obviously, you know, as you progress, what was the situation? When you know, what did you get to find out about a lot of people in terms of their personal lives? Of course, you know, anybody you want to name, you know, that's fine. If you don't want to mention names, that's fine. But what did you just see in terms of what a lot of these people go through on a regular day, in terms of like the more prominent artists, like the more famous ones, in terms of like what's their daily life like outside of their outside of the music and the fame?
Yeah, so I think that around the time I did the open mic, of course I started to become really close with those guys. I actually shot a commercial with Third Eye Collective for their show. They had like a live showcase type of show with like comedy, bands, things like that. And so that's how I met them. And they invited me to go do a commercial, to be like the chick in the commercial. And so that's how I got to know them. I thought they were so fun. Like I never had met anybody like people that were just so fun and kicking it. And so as the years went by after that, like, you know, I did start to get to know people, and, you know, I got to see what was going on in their daily life to life. And, you know, there's a lot of things I could see that were similar to how I was living. You know, like the struggle. I started to realize that, like, I'm doing this because I love it, and I'm not rich, but I just love it, you know. And I started to see other people that were doing the exact same thing, you know, like down for the cause. And, you know, those are the people that I put myself around. And I learned that, like, you know, I had to have like a core support group where we all kind of like respected each other, and we could do different kinds of work together. And as I continued to book, I got to know more people on different kinds of levels, just because you're working with them, I'm booking with them, I'm doing release parties, art shows, like all different kinds of stuff.
Definitely. And
you know,
a lot of times,
I ain't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
This would let me know that she was down for the cause, because I want to build off this here, where you booked a 2-venue event on the Save the Marcus Garvey building. You care to discuss to us what that was like?
Oh wow, I got it.
So that's the first. He's like, what? Yeah. So when I moved to Oakland in 2012, and I was working with a guy that he was like the media liaison for I forget what it's called right now, but it's just a group of people that were, what's it called, like the something on Wall Street. What's it called?
Occupy Wall Street.
I can't. Yeah, so he was like the guy that ran like Occupy Oakland. So he was like the media liaison that basically contacted the media, talked to the mayor, stuff like that. So I was already networked with him over the years, and so we put the event together because he was familiar with the people that owned the building at the time. And so when I moved out there, we went and checked the building out, and inside of it was a desk where you can find a job. And this is in West Oakland. You know, this is like an area that's very impoverished. There's liquor stores on every other corner. There's no grocery stores. I ended up living not so far from there, but like, you know, like you really have to ride your bike or walk or take a bus just to get to the grocery store. It's terrible. So like, anyways, we go in there and we see you can look for jobs. There's a church on the side. They had a choir that would meet up. They even had a sound studio in the back. And so what was going on was that they were having a hard time paying the mortgage, because the mortgages, as you know, in the Bay Area have been rising for decades. And
Yeah.
So basically the bank was about to take over the ownership of the building because of that. And so we decided to throw an event. And I went out on First Fridays, which is Oakland's Art Walk, and I just collected business cards, like I was saying earlier, business cards and postcards, and collected like 40 cards and just started calling everybody and finding out if they wanted to be a merchant. And so the way I set it up was, instead of charging the merchant like a booth fee, I told them, just come in, it's free. This is how it's going to go down. It's $40 a booth, but I don't want your money unless you make more than $40. And that's how I did it. And so I got 25 vendors in the door for the event. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Man. I mean, I'm listening because I'm a I'm a huge, Oakland, Bay Area fan in terms of everything. Know people that have been through there, and they all say the same thing. Ain't no hustle like an Oakland hustle, because the Oakland hustle stay busy on the bustle. And one thing about it is you all just always find a way to make it work out there. I mean,
yeah.
And I mean, what was that like for you personally in terms of, you just being really working hard independently, and just really loving it and, like dedicating your passion to this?
Yeah, that was the second time I had moved out of Sacramento, but it was the first time I had moved by myself. It was the first time I moved out of Sacramento by myself. And I wanted to move down there for so long because my whole goal with UBO Mag was to expand the business into other areas. And in order for me to do that, I needed to be able to either have street teams or go out there myself and create the network. You know what I mean? And I had to go to the Bay Area. That was definitely the next step. So that's why I went out there. And, luckily at the time, like I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I didn't even have a car at the time. I just had my cruiser bicycle from Sacramento. And I just moved out there, rented rooms out of a place, and just lived and got a job and just went around networking and, meeting artists and going to art shows and going to events and stuff like that. It was awesome. Yeah, I had a great time.
Wow. And I think something that's, I think that's something for a lot of people to really, because one thing about it, AARIS, is that you had a real in-depth and intimate experience with the people, with the culture. You saw the scene. And a lot of times journalists don't always have that type of interaction with, the local elements in terms of really watching everything from the inside. You have a lot of people that just want to come in and write, but really have no idea what is really going on. So you were right.
Yeah.
It really
I became part of the scene.
Yeah, you became part of it because it don't get more realer than West Oakland or any part of Oakland. East. Look, shout out to the Dubs.
Well, I didn't live in West Oakland. I lived in South Berkeley, North Oakland. I was very nearby West Oakland. But man, I was over by the Ashby area. There's like a BART station nearby. It was great. It was like a nice area with college students, families, older people. So it was a safe, decently safe area. So I was glad that I ended up in that region of Oakland.
Definitely. I mean, so, just as you kept, progressing with the magazine, tell us about as your publication kept growing and progressing. What was that like in terms of how it would keep going as you kept, seeing everything, as it would develop?
Well, I just kept going with the magazine and getting clients here and there. And, even when I started to get clients beginning in 2007, at the time I was calling it UBO PR and marketing. That's what I called it. And so I would get clients. I would just get like a small handful a year. It wasn't like a full-time job, but there was times that I was able to live off it and things like that. But I really wanted it to be something bigger. And before I moved to Oakland, I had literally traced out like the future of what it will develop into. And, thinking big things. I'm like, personally, I don't even like to be in front of the scene. I'm not like, the kind of person that wants to be on stage and all that kind of stuff. But like, I want to be able to build stuff that is helpful for artists, for, people that provide services, as well as the media, so that everybody can kind of connect the dots together. And, that's all I'm trying to do. I just want everybody to kind of be able to understand the process and connect the dots.
Definitely. Now, with UBO, how did you come up with the name for it? What does it stand for?
So UBO stands for Underground Beat Online. So that's something we come up with in 2001. And, as a journalist, like, what's your beat? You know what I mean? And it just made sense because I already knew we were going to be covering a lot of hip-hop, although we did cover a lot of other different kinds of genres of music back in the day. And I always kept it open for, different lifestyle type of, like, we'd cover, like, vegans, and we'd cover, like, Christians and Jewish music and all different kinds of stuff. It was fun. But, yeah, it's Underground Beat Online. That's what it stands for.
And, while you all, the roots of the word in hip-hop, it definitely beat is just music in general. So it was very, it was very wide-ranging and inclusive. That was genius to have that type of, name, because it encompasses so many things. And while it may be specialty maybe in one aspect, it still opens it up for everybody else to be involved as well. And I think, as a place as diverse as Northern California, Oakland, Sacramento, there's so many colors. There's so many rich elements. It's a tapestry of talent. It's a quilt of unity. It's all stitched together in one community. And that's a beautiful thing, man. That you were really able to be so inclusive. For what?
Yeah, it was a goal of mine. That was a goal of mine because when I grew up living in the mountains, like I grew up around a lot. It was like a very Caucasian-based town that I lived in, and I had some stuff happen to me, and my first boyfriend I had in high school, and he was a black guy, and he was the only black guy at the whole school. Like, I didn't know. I had no idea because my brother was like, you should go out with this guy. He's really nice. He's respectful. He plays sports. He hangs out with your friends. And I'm like, okay. So I started dating him, and I didn't even know what was going to happen. But all of a sudden, I have, everybody just trying to get in fights with him. Like, all the football players are trying to fight him. Chicks are trying to, like, call me names and stuff like that. So I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to get out of there so bad that, like, I just wanted my entire rest of my life to be something of beauty, just being around different kinds of people, because that's what helps everybody to grow,
Yeah, and that's always the unfortunate element. We see all too often, we don't necessarily, we're not a political show. We don't like to go on political tangents or social tangents, but, we will when the conversation is appropriate for it. And all we're going to say on that is, when you're dealing with people who don't necessarily embrace diversity or understand, how people just come together because of a common interest and genuine care about it, compassion and love for each other, you're going to have those that are going to try to dissuade you from it. But, it definitely can be something that is hard to deal with. It's still a problem, to a degree, we have in society today at certain levels. And I don't care what nobody say. I don't want to get too out there, but I will say this. We still have people that still don't embrace others and their culture and their heritage. And some will try to say, well, we're past that. Bull fucking shit. We're not.
No, we're not. We're not. I mean, I'm talking about, like, the mid-late 90s when this happened to me and this guy, and he ended up taking his own life at 24 years old, partly because of that, Like, that's a whole nother kind of conversation, right. I guess. Yeah, but, like, but it just kind of shows, the volume of what hatred and all that kind of stuff can cause to other people, you know? Like,
definitely, and our condolences for your loss. And one thing about it is that we also, and that's what makes what you do so important, because hip-hop is, while it was started, you know, as an outlet for black and brown people who wanted to speak on their plight in American society, it was not exclusively for us. It was started by us, but it was not exclusively for us. And as it grew, you know, shout out to so many artists from so many different walks of life, you know, from our Asian brothers like Jen, you know, to our Caucasian brothers like Eminem, you know, House of Pain, to our Samoan brothers like Booyah Tribe, you know, our Latin brothers like Frost, Mellow Man 8, you know, Fat Joe, Big Pun, you know, to our Latin sisters, you know, like Hurricane G, Amaretta, you know, it's you know, people like yourself, you know, who took such a passion of it and, you know, wanted to document it. I mean, you all are essential. You are vital. You are needed. Your voices are resonant. They're relevant. It's something that it shows. One thing that is so beautiful about hip-hop is so many people from all across the world, not just the United States, but across the world, get to express themselves. And through all of that, we come together as a collective whole representing a culture that shows, you know, we are all so much stronger when we are together. You know?
Exactly.
And while we may be diverse in our experience, our common love of the culture brings us together as one big family. And it's so extended beyond, I think, what anybody could really express. You know, and, you know, we salute you. We thank you for what you have done, you know, and continue to still do. Tell us about your present endeavors today in terms of what's going on with your, you know, with your, you know, UBO and just your other ventures that you have going.
Right. So now I'm living in Hawaii. So I've expanded from the West Coast, you know, across the Pacific. And I moved out here with my fiance. We have a little 4-year-old daughter, and he's from out here. Yeah. So he's from out here in Hawaii. We live on the island of Kauai. It's the furthest main island that's out on the island chain. And yeah, we live out here. My guide is hip hop as well. He goes by Son the One, and we basically are raising our daughter, and I'm, you know, able to take care of my daughter from home while I work on everything that I've wanted to do. You know, it's almost like I knew all this would happen, you know? Like I had these types of dreams and things when I was young, when I was just starting to get into journalism in junior high, and I had dreams of being able to own my own business in the same field and take care of my child all at the same time. I think it's a beautiful thing for families to be able to do that. It's something that's not, like, I don't think very accepted in the culture in the United States, where you have your children with you at work. But I feel like it's very vital because parents need to educate their children, you know, and especially right now with everything going on with the COVID-19 pandemic, like, parents can't just be like, I want my kids to go back to school because I have to work. It's like, okay, look, we're in a different era now. Let's figure out a way to make money and stay with your child, stay with your children, you know? It's literally like,
I like that attitude.
Yeah. I mean, like, if there was no government telling you to make your kid go to school, what would you do? You know?
That's some real shit right there.
Right.
That's
some tribal crap right there.
Yeah. But, I mean, the culture, you know, a shout-out to our Pacific Islander brothers and sisters, man. I mean, because their culture is really family-oriented, and it's really about, you know, keeping the children around, because that's how you pass down wisdom. That's how you pass down tradition, you know. And, you know, Samoa, Hawaii, all those places, man. It's like that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
It is that's a conversation for another day. But it's like that's
exactly.
They're really about making sure that everybody is together as much as they can be at all times. Because they really realize the importance of family. So going back to what to what we were talking about earlier. What is it that you've seen change in hip hop journalism over the years in terms of how it is marketed and how the interviews go, and just how people are going about doing it?
I mean, I feel like technology obviously is a main factor. Different kinds of applications that are out there that are helpful to journalists are out there. Different kinds of hubs are out there for journalists. So I feel that, like, right now as a journalist, like, you have every single thing you need to do to be successful. At the same time, just like artists felt, I'm sure, like, right when the internet came out, or even in the 80s and the 90s with, like, garage bands. Like, you start to see people that, like, think they could rap or they think they could do this and that. So even that happens with photography, journalism, all those spots. And people will come out and be like, oh, I'm going to start a magazine, or I'm going to do this. And it's like, did you actually get educated in that? So the thing that I do with my publication is that if people come in and they want to write with me, I help them to hone their craft. So I'm literally giving them education in order for them to understand how to write properly, because the types of articles I write are AP style. I don't write in, like, a very lax magazine style at all. Like, I'm very strict with it, and I do that on purpose because I want people to take what we're doing seriously.
Yeah. And
I wanted to shoot this to you because we know you gotta go shortly. Now, your man's now he's rapping too, for when I was observing. And where could he find his album at? Like, when y'all putting that out?
We are about to release one of the singles shortly. I'm hoping in the next week or so. So just tune in on my page, like on on any of my social medias. Once the single gets dropped, I'll put it up on all the regular platforms and all that kind of stuff. You can look him up at Sun Da1. Look him up on YouTube. He's got some really pretty cool videos up there that he put together a few years back, and he's really excited about this album. He's been working on it for a while, so. And then I was going to say, also, we are pretty much ready, actually. As soon as I get off the phone here, I put some notes at the bottom of the interview page for everybody. We are launching UBOentertainment.com. So you can go on there right now. We're still slightly under construction, but go on in there. There's, ways to link on things and get in touch with us.
Yes, indeed. That's what I was going to get to you about. I see y'all about to launch it, and best believe we're going to subscribe to it. Now, y'all going to have a YouTube channel and all that stuff as well?
Yeah. So any of the podcasts we do will be on YouTube. So I have Shano Most Wanted from Real Spit Radio. He's going to be managing the podcast for me because, as you know, I'm a writer, so I would like to stick to the writing part. But podcasting is so important nowadays, and especially because of the pandemic and everything going on, it's even more important, to be able to reach out to people and to communicate in a modern level that people understand, But I am not going to give up my writing, Bring it back.
Yeah, and like I said, man, it's just great to see, y'all still, pushing forward today and still doing what y'all do, even, look, COVID can't stop the culture, and what y'all creating and perpetually doing is still in progress, and, y'all still pushing forward. So it's a blessing to see
That's
y'all
great.
Still got a passion after all these years, and y'all still keep doing it. We wish y'all the very, very best.
Yeah, no, that's right. Like, actually, the pandemic didn't hinder what I'm doing at all. If anything, it helped to grow what we're doing in an interesting way. You know, and it's funny to see the waves over the last 2 decades, because I've been doing this for 19 years, to see the waves of people not understanding the online magazine, to why don't you print it? So we printed it for 2 years one time in Sacramento, to like going back online and staying there, and then now we're, you know, everybody's staying inside. So it's great to be able to be there for people and to have, you know, this type of medium for people to get their information from.
Yeah, we definitely gonna be looking forward to it. And if any artists that you have on the shows that you have, you can send them over there, and vice versa. Because we know we're about growing each other's brands and making every industry grow. Yes, that's something that I'm building with my team as well. We call it media alliances, and we're basically building alliances with people like you and vice versa and other types of media in order to help to spread the word around about the artists that we're all working with, you know? Like, there might be no money that's traded, but, like, at least that artist gets to get out there in a further way, and that's the most beneficial thing that we could do for them as media, people in media. Yes, indeed. Now, before we leave, you have any other shout-outs you want to give out?
Yeah, sure. I want to give a shout-out to my co-founder of UBO Entertainment. That's Brian, and his business is called Creative Logic. And Creative Logic is web design, branding, and graphics. And then also, I think I said earlier, Real Spit Radio is running our podcast. I got 2 lovely PR girls working with me, helping to make it happen. Malvika Payden from London, and then I also have Denise Carter from South Carolina who's working with me. So I got people all over the place.
That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's about making it bigger and spreading the word.
Yeah, and it's all about connections. Definitely. And it's all about clicking with the connections and making live wires pop, no doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, like, shout out to all my people in Sacramento. There's like 1 billion people I know, so I'm just like, if you're there, I say hi. I miss you guys. Hopefully I'll come home soon and visit.
Well, shout out to the 916, man. Y'all still keeping it popping out in Northern Cal, you know, staying active. Yes, man. You know, look, I mean, shout out to y'all, Vallejo,
we definitely enjoyed
East, West,
building
North.
with
Yeah.
It was a fun show.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun. I was a little nervous at first, but, you know, you guys calmed my nerves.
Well, one thing about it is, you know, yeah, I mean, AARIS, we're so grateful. You know, it took a while, but we made it happen. You're welcome back anytime. You know, anything you got going on, you always got an open door with us. We love you. We salute you. We thank you so much. And keep doing what you're doing. Our very best to your husband and your daughter. You know, and just keep doing what you're doing. And God bless you and yours.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys are so awesome. I'm so glad that we're able to work together and help artists. That's, you know, our main mission.
Yes, it is, and we will continue on that mission.
And on that note, we about to sign up out of here. We're going to see y'all again this Friday night. We will still have a special show lined up. In the meantime, keep on supporting us on YouTube. Keep subscribing to the channel. Screwball Radio coming soon. And we out of here.
Yep. And we out.
All black folks to come together behind, particularly against